From the moment he could remember, he felt different inside his own home. It wasn't something anyone openly said at first. There were no dramatic confrontations, no loud accusations, no clear moment where everything changed. Instead, it was subtle, slow, and constant, a feeling that grew quietly over the years, settling deep into his bones until it became part of how he saw himself. He was the black sheep of the family. While other children were praised for their achievements, he was corrected for his mistakes. When his siblings spoke, adults listened. When he spoke, conversations shifted or ended. At family gatherings, relatives would ask his brother about school, sports, and future plans. They would compliment his sister on her discipline, her grades, her potential. When they turned to him, the questions were different. So, what are you doing these days? Are you still trying that thing? Do you have a real plan yet? The tone was never curious. It was cautious. As if expecting disappointment, he learned early that expectations existed in his family, but they weren't meant for him. Expectations were reserved for those who fit the image they wanted to project to the world. He didn't fit that image. Not in the way he dressed, not in the way he spoke, not in the way he dreamed. From the outside, his family looked normal, loving, functional, respectable. But inside the walls of that house, comparisons lived quietly in every corner. And no matter how hard he tried, he always came out on the losing side. His siblings followed clear paths. They did what was expected. They chose what was safe. And because of that, they were rewarded with approval, encouragement, and pride. He, on the other hand, asked too many questions. He doubted rules that didn't make sense to him. He wanted to explore, to experiment, to take risks. And in his family, risk was another word for failure. Teachers called him distracted. Relatives called him complicated. Family friends whispered that he was lost. Not once did anyone ask why he felt different. Not once did anyone wonder what he needed. They only saw what he wasn't. At the dinner table, his presence felt optional. He could sit quietly through entire meals without anyone noticing he hadn't spoken. If he tried to share an idea, a plan, or even a simple opinion, someone would interrupt him halfway through. That's not realistic. You're overthinking it. That's not how the real world works. Over time, he stopped trying to explain himself. It was easier to stay quiet than to constantly feel misunderstood. Easier to nod than to argue. Easier to retreat inward than to keep reaching out and coming back. Empty-handed. But silence doesn't mean peace. Inside, he carried a constant ache. A feeling that something was wrong with him. That maybe they were right. Maybe he really was the problem. Maybe he lacked whatever it was that made people worthy of respect. That doubt followed him everywhere. When he failed, it confirmed their expectations. When he succeeded, it was dismissed as luck. He could never win. As he grew older, the distance between him and his family widened. Not because of a single fight, but because of years of emotional neglect. Every interaction reminded him of who he was supposed to be and how far he was from that version. So when the opportunity came, he left. Earlier than anyone expected. With less support than anyone noticed, there was no dramatic goodbye. No tears, no speeches about missing him, just a quiet exit and an unspoken assumption that he wouldn't get very far anyway. Life outside his family was harder than he imagined. Without a safety net, every mistake mattered. Every bill, every job, every decision carried weight. There was no one to fall back on. No one to call for help without feeling like he was proving them right. He worked long hours at jobs that drained him physically and emotionally. He lived in small apartments, shared rooms, sometimes even slept in his car when money was tight. He failed more times than he could count. But something else happened too. He learned without realizing it. He was building resilience. While others relied on guidance and reassurance, he learned how to make decisions alone. While others expected support, he learned how to survive without it. Pain became his teacher. Every rejection taught him persistence. Every failure taught him adaptability. Every lonely night taught him self-reliance. Years passed. From the outside, his family assumed he was drifting, that he had never settled. that he was still trying and failing to figure things out. They didn't ask questions. They didn't check in, as long as everything was stable in their world. There was no reason to involve him, and for a long time, he was okay with that. Distance protected him, but deep down, part of him still carried the weight of being the black sheep. Still wondered if one day, somehow, he would finally prove them wrong. Then came the phone call. Late at night, unexpected. Urgent, the kind of call that immediately tells you something is wrong. A hospital. A doctor. His father. The words came fast and heavy. Medical terms. Complications. A serious condition. No guarantees. For a moment, he froze. Despite everything, this was still his family. Still the man whose approval he had chased his entire life. Even when he pretended he didn't care, he didn't hesitate. He got in his car and drove through the night. As the miles passed, memories surfaced, uninvited. Childhood moments. Family dinners. The constant feeling of being out of place. The silence that followed him everywhere. By the time he arrived at the hospital, exhaustion and adrenaline blurred together. The scene inside was chaotic. His siblings were there, but they looked different. Smaller, somehow. Stripped of the confidence they usually carried so easily. His mother sat stiffly in a chair, staring at nothing. His brother paced back and forth, hands shaking. His sister cried quietly, overwhelmed. No one knew what to do. Doctors spoke quickly. Information came in fragments. Decisions needed to be made, but fear clouded everyone's judgment. They argued over small things, panicked over big ones, avoided responsibility, and without realizing it, they all turned toward him, the black sheep, the one they never trusted. Yet now, when everything was falling apart, he was the only one standing still. He listened carefully. He asked questions. He took control. Years of handling crises alone had prepared him for this moment. While others were paralyzed by emotion, he focused on what needed to be done. "I'll handle it," he said calmly. No one objected. For the first time in his life, his family didn't doubt him. They didn't question his ability. They didn't look past him. They needed him. And he stepped forward without hesitation. The hospital became there. World days blurred together under fluorescent lights that never turned off. The smell of disinfectant clung to their clothes. Time lost its meaning. Measured only by medical updates, visiting hours, and the quiet hum of machines keeping his father alive. From the moment he stepped into the role of decision-maker, everything changed, not dramatically, not instantly, but undeniably. Doctors spoke directly to him now. Nurses asked him questions first. Paperwork was handed to him without hesitation. It wasn't something he asked for, but something that happened naturally. As if everyone sensed that he was the only one grounded enough to carry the weight of what was happening. His siblings noticed it too at first. They resisted. His brother, who had always been confident, always been seen as the capable one, struggled with the shift. He hovered nearby, offering opinions, questioning small decisions, trying to reclaim a sense of control he had never had to fight for before. But every time he spoke, his voice cracked. Fear had stripped him of certainty. His sister, usually organized and composed, was unraveling. She cried easily, jumped at every update, and second-guessed herself constantly. She wanted to help but didn't know how. Their mother stayed quiet most of the time. She watched everything with tired eyes, her face etched with guilt she hadn't yet put into words. And then there was him, the black sheep, standing in the center of it all, calm in a way that surprised even himself. He didn't feel brave. He didn't feel strong. He felt prepared. Years of navigating life without support had trained him for moments like this. When things went wrong, he didn't panic. He assessed. He adapted. He moved forward. Still, being back in this environment stirred old wounds at night. When visiting hours ended and the hospital halls emptied, memories resurfaced. Moments from childhood he thought he had buried came flooding back. He remembered standing in the living room as a teenager, explaining an idea he was excited about, a plan that didn't follow the traditional path. His father had listened quietly, arms crossed, then shaken his head. "That's not realistic," he had said. "You need to be more like your brother." That sentence echoed now, louder than ever. He remembered his mother standing in the doorway, saying nothing, watching, not defending him, not encouraging him. And he remembered the feeling that followed, the shrinking, the doubt, the quiet decision to stop sharing his dreams. Those memories clashed violently with the present now. Those same people looked at him with expectation. With hope, with trust. It was disorienting. One evening, after a long conversation with a specialist, he stepped outside the hospital to get some air. The sky was dark, the parking lot nearly empty. He leaned against his car and took a deep breath, trying to release the tension he'd been holding in for days. His brother joined him a few moments later. They stood in silence at first. Then his brother spoke. "I don't know how." "You're doing this?" he said quietly. He didn't respond right away. "Doing what?" "Holding it together. Stepping up. Not falling apart." "I've never been good at this kind of pressure," his brother continued. I thought you were the one who struggled." The words weren't cruel. They were honest. And honesty hurt more than insults ever did. He turned to look at his brother. For the first time, he didn't see confidence or superiority. He saw fear, confusion. A man who had always been supported, suddenly standing without a net. "I struggled because I had to," he said calmly. "You never did." His brother swallowed hard. That conversation marked a turning point. After that night, resistance faded. His brother began to defer instead of challenge. His sister started asking for advice instead of panicking. Their mother watched him with an expression he couldn't quite read yet. Respect, maybe. Regret, possibly. As the days passed, his father's condition fluctuated. Some mornings brought cautious optimism. Other nights brought setbacks that felt like punches to the chest. Through it all, he remained steady. But steadiness doesn't mean numbness. There were moments, alone in the quiet of the hospital chapel, or sitting in his car before driving back to the hotel, where the weight of everything threatened to crush him. He wondered why it had taken a crisis for his family to see him. He wondered whether this change would last once the danger passed. He wondered if part of him still wanted their approval more than he was willing to admit. One night, his mother approached him while his siblings slept in the waiting room. She sat beside him slowly, as if unsure she was welcome. "I need to say something," she said. He nodded. Her hands trembled as she spoke. "I didn't protect you when I should have." The words hung heavy between them. She stared at the floor, tears gathering in her eyes. "I thought pushing you would make you stronger," she continued. "I thought being hard on you would fix whatever I believed was wrong. I didn't realize I was pushing you away." He listened silently, not because he didn't feel anything, but because he felt everything. "I saw how differently we treated you," she said, "and I did nothing." That confession hurt more than any argument ever had, because it confirmed what he had always felt. He wasn't imagining it. He wasn't overreacting. He wasn't broken. He had been neglected. "I'm sorry," she whispered. For a long moment, he said nothing. Forgiveness isn't instant. It isn't simple. And it isn't owed. "I needed you back then," he finally said. "Not now." She nodded, tears falling freely. "I know." They sat together in silence after that. Not healed, but honest, and honesty was new. When his father finally woke up, the room filled with tension. Machines beeped softly. Nurses moved carefully. Everyone waited for his reaction, his awareness, his words. His father's eyes slowly focused. He looked around the room, confused at first. Then recognition dawned. He saw his wife, his children, and finally, him, the black sheep. Their eyes met. Something passed between them. Something unspoken but heavy with years of misunderstanding. Later, when the others stepped out, his father motioned for him to stay. His voice was weak, strained by tubes and exhaustion. "You've been here, his father said. Yes, he replied. They told me you've been handling everything. He nodded. His father swallowed hard. I didn't expect that. There it was. Not an apology. Not yet, just truth. You always surprise me, his father continued. I just never admitted it. The words landed harder than any accusation. He felt a strange mix of sadness and relief. Sadness for the years wasted. Relief that the truth was finally acknowledged. As his father rested, he thought about how strange life was. How roles could reverse so suddenly. How the one labeled weak could become the strongest when it mattered most. The days that followed brought slow improvement. His father stabilized. Doctors became cautiously optimistic. The crisis phase passed, replaced by recovery, and with it, something else emerged. A new family dynamic. His siblings treated him differently now. They listened when he spoke. They asked before deciding. They leaned on him emotionally, something they had never done before. Yet he remained careful. He knew how fragile this newfound respect was. He had lived long enough without it to know not to depend on it. Instead, he focused on what he could control. Being present. Being reliable. Being himself as the hospital stay came to an end. The family gathered one evening in the waiting room, exhausted but hopeful. His brother broke the silence. I owe you, he said. His sister nodded. His mother looked at him with quiet gratitude, but the words that stayed with him weren't theirs. They were his own. A realization that settled deeply within him. He didn't step up to prove them wrong. He stepped up because he had become someone capable, and that capability wasn't built through praise. It was built through being overlooked, through being doubted, through being forced to grow without permission. Being the black sheep had never been a flaw. It had been preparation, and he was only beginning to understand that the day his father was discharged from the hospital did not feel like a celebration. There were no smiles wide enough to erase the fear that still lingered. No laughter loud enough to drown out the weight of what had almost been lost. Recovery, the doctors explained, would be long, fragile, uncertain. But the crisis phase was over, and with it came something else. Reality. Back at the family home. The atmosphere felt unfamiliar. The walls were the same. The furniture hadn't moved. The house still smelled like old memories and routine. But the people inside it had changed? Or maybe for the first time, they were being honest. His father moved slowly, each step a reminder of how close everything had come to ending. His mother hovered constantly, trying to make up for years of emotional distance through acts of service. His siblings tried to resume their roles, but nothing fit the way it used to, and he felt like a guest in a place that had once been his prison. He stayed longer than planned, not because he felt obligated, but because he chose to. There was something unfinished here, something that required more than a medical emergency to resolve. In the quiet moments, when the house settled and everyone retreated to their rooms, he found himself reflecting on how strange it felt to be needed by the same people who once dismissed him. He thought about the younger version of himself, the one who had stood in this same house feeling invisible, the one who believed love had to be earned through compliance, the one who learned to shrink himself to survive. That version of him would never have imagined this moment, never imagined being the one holding everything together. Yet here he was, one evening. His father asked him to sit with him on the back porch. The sun was setting, casting long shadows across the yard. It was quiet. Honest. I've been thinking a lot, his father said. He waited. I built my idea of success on fear, his father continued. Fear of failure. Fear of judgment. Fear of looking weak. He paused, swallowing hard, and I passed that fear on to my children. The words were heavy. I thought pushing you would make you tougher, his father said. I thought criticism would shape you into something better. He looked at him then. I didn't realize it was breaking you. The admission cut deep, not because it was new, but because it was finally spoken. I don't need an apology, he said quietly. I needed understanding. His father nodded slowly. I understand now, he said. Too late, maybe, but I see you. For the first time, that sentence didn't make his chest ache. It didn't heal the past, but it released him from it. Days turned into weeks. As his father recovered, the family dynamic continued to evolve. Conversations became more balanced. Decisions were discussed instead of dictated. And slowly, his presence stopped feeling like an exception. But he was careful. He had spent too many years being defined by their opinions to allow this shift to define him. Now, he began setting boundaries, not aggressively. Not dramatically, but firmly. He refused to be pulled back into old roles. Refused to carry responsibility that wasn't his. Refused to earn respect by sacrificing himself. And surprisingly, they accepted it. His siblings struggled at first. His brother admitted one night, over drinks in the kitchen, that he felt lost. "I always thought I had everything figured out," his brother said. "And then I watched you handle the worst situation of our lives with calm." "I've never had," he laughed. Bitterly, "I don't know who I am without being the successful one." That confession shifted. Something, for the first time. His brother wasn't competing. He was searching. His sister shared her own truth later. "I was terrified of failing," she admitted. "That's why I followed every rule, every expectation. I thought safety meant happiness." She looked at him carefully. "But watching you, I realized I've never really lived." He listened, not as the black sheep, but as someone who had already walked through uncertainty and survived. And in that role, he offered something he never received growing up: support. Not advice. Not judgment, just presence. One night, long after the house had gone quiet, he sat alone in the living room, thinking about how strange the journey had been. He hadn't become strong because his family believed in him. He became strong because they didn't, and that realization carried no bitterness anymore, only clarity. Eventually, it was time to leave. His life was elsewhere now, built on his own terms, anchored in self-respect rather than approval. The morning he packed his car, his family gathered quietly by the door. There were no speeches, no dramatic gestures, just a shared understanding that something fundamental had changed. His mother hugged him tightly. "I'm proud of you." This time the words didn't feel like compensation. They felt sincere. His father extended his hand, then pulled him into an awkward but meaningful embrace. "You were always stronger than I knew," he said. His siblings thanked him, but the most important moment came when he got into his car and sat there for a second longer than necessary. Because for the first time in his life, he didn't feel like he was leaving something behind. He felt like he was choosing himself. Months passed. Life returned to its rhythm, but the impact of that moment stayed with him. His family continued to reach out, not out of necessity, but connection. They asked for his opinion. They respected his time. They no longer treated him as the outlier. And still, he didn't cling to it, because somewhere along the way, he had learned the most important lesson of all. Being the black sheep doesn't mean you're broken. It often means you're the one who sees the world differently, the one who questions instead of conforms, the one who grows in isolation instead of comfort. Families don't always recognize strength when it looks unfamiliar. Sometimes they only see it when everything falls apart, and when that moment comes, it's rarely the most praised who step up. It's the ones who learn to stand alone long before they were asked to hold others. He had once believed that being accepted would complete him. Now he knew better. Acceptance is optional. Self-respect is not. And so, when people ask him how he became so resilient, so grounded, so unshaken by judgment, he doesn't talk about success. He talks about being overlooked, about being underestimated, about being the black sheep, because that role didn't destroy him. It trained him. It shaped him. It prepared him for the moment when everything mattered most, and when that day came, he was ready. After everything settled, after the hospital crisis faded into memory and life resumed its usual pace, he expected the emotions to quiet down. They didn't. In fact, that was when the real work began. For years, survival had been his priority. Moving forward without looking back had been his strategy. But now, with the past resurfaced and acknowledged, he was left with something unfamiliar. Space. Space to think. Space to feel. Space to finally ask himself questions he'd never had the luxury to consider before. Who was he? Without the role of the black sheep? That question followed him everywhere at work. In quiet evenings alone. In conversations that suddenly felt more honest than before. He realized that for most of his life, his identity had been shaped in opposition. He wasn't the favorite, so he became independent. He wasn't trusted, so he became cautious. He wasn't supported, so he learned to rely only on himself. Those traits had saved him, but now he wondered if they were. Also walls, he began noticing how instinctively he kept emotional distance. How difficult it was for him to ask for help, even when it was offered. How deeply ingrained the belief was that connection came with conditions. That belief didn't disappear just because his family had changed. Healing, he learned, wasn't a single moment. It was a process. One that required confronting not just how others had treated him, but how he had learned to treat himself. He started therapy for the first time in his life. Not because he felt broken, but because he wanted clarity. He wanted to understand how years of quiet rejection had shaped his reactions, his fears, his relationships. In those sessions, he spoke about childhood, about silence, about being praised only when he minimized himself, about how being the black sheep taught him resilience, but also taught him loneliness. He learned that strength and self-sacrifice aren't the same thing. And that lesson changed everything slowly. He began allowing himself to need others, carefully, selectively, without shame. He reconnected with friends he had kept at arm's length. He allowed himself to build deeper relationships without constantly preparing for abandonment. And something surprising happened. People stayed, not because he was useful, not because he was strong, but because he was real. His family noticed the changes too. Interactions became healthier. Boundaries were respected. Old patterns were gently but firmly dismantled. When his brother fell into a professional crisis months later, he didn't rush in to fix everything. Instead, he listened. He supported without rescuing. He encouraged without controlling. That was new. When his sister struggled with a life decision, didn't carry her fear for her. He reminded her she was capable of choosing for herself. That was growth. Even his relationship with his father continued to evolve. They spoke more honestly than ever before. Not constantly, not dramatically, but authentically. One afternoon, his father admitted something that stayed with him. "I always thought being hard on you would make you stronger," he said. "But you became strong despite me." There was no bitterness in his voice, only acceptance. That sentence closed a door that had been open for decades. He no longer needed to prove anything, not to his family, not to himself. The black sheep chapter of his life didn't disappear. It integrated. It became part of his story, not the definition of it. And when he looked back now, he could finally see the full picture. The isolation had taught him self-awareness. The rejection had taught him independence. The silence had taught him resilience. But healing taught him something else. That worth is not assigned. It is claimed. And once claimed, it cannot be taken away. He stopped seeing his past as something to overcome. He saw it as training. Training for empathy. Training for leadership. Training for strength that doesn't need permission. When people now ask him how he became who he is, he doesn't glamorize the pain. He tells the truth, that being the black sheep hurts. That being overlooked scars. That loneliness leaves marks. But he also tells them this, that sometimes the ones who don't belong in the system are the ones strong enough to build something better. That sometimes being pushed aside is what teaches you how to stand on your own. And sometimes the day they finally need you is the day you realize you never needed their approval at all.